Well, I think like everybody else when it first started, I was skeptical that it was actually going to come here. You know, we heard about it in China and I kind of thought it was going to be like SARS or the avian flu or something that happened in a land far away and controlled to a particular region where it broke out or something. And, you know, I was alarmed that so many people were getting sick and it was so deadly, but I didn't really expect that it would hit home.
The big issue is you know, we're a service business and providing service. So there was a period of time where we had to shut down the lobby, shut down some of the services we provided to the community. So those are challenging. We never like to give our residents a reason that they can't interact or can't work with us.
It was strange going into homes. I mean, some of these homes that we went into, they just didn't have one person sick with it. They had, I remember one house when they had 10 people that were in a house that were sick with COVID at the one time.
We want to, you know, leave work at work, but with this, everything's shut down. So it's like you get out of work and then you go home and all you're hearing about is coronavirus and all kinds of stuff.
Okay, we've got to get a protocol out for this. The state puts out a protocol. It was constantly changing. It seemed like you'd have a protocol change 2-3 times a week, and trying to get that information out as quickly as possible. And you're just inundating all the guys going on these calls.
The Macomb County Health Department announced the county's first case of coronavirus on Friday night. That number is now up to 3.
Our other top story tonight, today's coronavirus numbers, and they are not good. 610 new cases today.
Well, before the isolation order, the township department heads were all meeting frequently, I think twice a week, putting in place protections for employees, figuring out how to continue to serve our residents and still protect our employees. I think that the atmosphere around the township was unsure, just like everyone else. Nobody really knew what to expect.
My first thought was to, you know, probably like everyone, is to keep your little insular circle safe, right? So you want your friends and your family and your community and your staff members and your coworkers and you know, your favorite grocery store clerk and you know, the nurses and doctors and your doctor's office. You want to keep your little bubble safe, but you know, pretty soon it's everybody's little bubble that's in danger. So you're not just thinking about my friends and my family, but my coworkers' friends and family and my neighbors' friends and family. And it seems as though everyone knows someone who has gone through it or is going through it or lost somebody to this. So the insular bubble becomes sort of closing in on you. There isn't any way that you're not touched by it.
We came in on that Monday and the executive staff met. We started taking all the recommendations from CDC guidelines and what was being pushed out nationally. And we started paring that down to our community and internally how we were going to push that out to our staff. That started with the proper PPE, requiring masks, latex gloves or gloves, and then hand sanitizers.
People had different levels of uneasiness or fear or comfort with the way that things were moving. I think that with our departments that are public safety, we were looking at making sure we had the proper protections in place for our employees who we knew, you know, water department, fire department, police department, our communication technicians, who we knew would have to stay on the job, making sure that we had masks and sanitizers and gloves and face shields for them. Along with the general workforce, making sure that we were set up to maintain all of our services online rather than in person.
All Shelby Township buildings will be closed to the public beginning immediately at 3 p.m. today. While the buildings were closed, we were open. We've never been closed. Our residents have always been taken care of. Our employees were always coming to work day after day. We never missed a beat. There was never, ever any interruption of services to our residents.
Having good plans in place so that you have good structure, so you have good orders, you have good solid orders so your people know what to do, when to do it, and how to do it.
Officers responding to 25 Mile Road, be advised there is a COVID positive person inside the home. Use caution.
Both police and fire entering a home that had the potential. We coordinated with our peers over at the fire department so that we shared that information so we didn't unnecessarily or unduly put our first responders in harm's way. So
the biggest difference had to have been when we started to reuse protective equipment. That was really big in the news with hospitals and different things like that. People being told we have to reuse masks or we have to reuse different equipment. Because your whole entire career, that equipment is throwaway equipment. You never reuse anything that you can't decontaminate. So a paper mask or an N95 mask, you know, it's put in your brain that it's an OSHA standard, that it's absolutely not ever acceptable to be reusing these items. And then the pandemic hit and, you know, the whole industry has no standard or capability to keep up with that type of use. And so one day we're throwing equipment away after it's been used on a patient, and then the next day we're reusing it on 10 different patients, and you're wearing these things over and over again.
Like some of these guys have said, I mean, they've got little kids, newborns, pregnant wives. They couldn't go see their parents, that type of thing. Knowing that they're in the middle of all this, it's just, you can't turn that off. I mean, I'm thinking about it all the time. Did I make the right call? Did I not make the right call? Am I doing the best for these guys?
It was difficult. It was difficult when we were going into these homes. I remember the one day that made it real for me is that we had 3 CPR calls, and we ended up having to pronounce them in their homes, and they were all possible COVID patients. So that's when it made it real for me.
Yeah, I think it was more than just the job. It was everything combined with all the COVID calls, the normal calls, and then like I said, when you leave work, it's still COVID everything. So it seemed like you never got a break from it, really.
There was a time where for 21 days, we're just basically not being able to really do any interaction with my wife or my kids. And you're just staying away from everybody, and it's all because of what you're doing at work.
We had several departments that did return to work while the isolation orders were still in order. Our water department maintained a workforce the entire time from March all the way through present day.
Well, for the most part, we provide one of the most essential services, water and sewer. So that's something that couldn't be shut down. We had to continue those services. But we did recognize when the governor came out with the executive order that we had to limit it to just, at least at the beginning, to essential services. Dedicated trained professionals in the water industry, wastewater industry. We understand the importance of what we're doing and getting those services to our residents. You know, it's, I was joking a little bit, and the joke's not real funny, but don't worry about the virus if we lost water supply. The virus would be the least of our worries if we lost our water or our wastewater supply.
We evaluated employees' needs based on whether or not they could provide services to the residents from their homes or if they needed to be in person. So we actually returned several departments to work well before the rest of, I think, the general workforce.
We never stopped working at the clerk's office. Even though the doors are closed, but my staff is here, I'm here, and we didn't have the luxury of working from home or staying at home and taking time off because the upcoming primary election.
Our maintenance staff continued to work through all this because, as we all know, the parks were the busiest they've ever been in probably the history of Shelby Township. So we had a lot of maintenance to do out there, and we wanted our workers to be safe. Right away, we had to shut down all active recreation because we couldn't mandate social distancing. At that time, the trails were open. Well, we took a lot of calls where people were upset that certain people weren't staying 6 feet apart from them. So there was a lot of issues we had to do, but right away, Community Relations Department talked with Mr. Bates, and we got signs ordered. So right away we put the signs up. The basketball hoops is a tough one. I know the kids want to play, but the problem is it's our responsibility to mandate it. And you can't mandate social distancing in basketball. It's sad, but we just can't. So we had to remove the basketball hoops.
The plan that we had to return people to work was to let each department design their own return to work system. On who was returning, how they were returning, what their schedules were, because each department knows best what the employees in that department do, what services they offer. And rather than having a one-size-fits-all program, we made a flexible program that allowed our department heads to understand their department and the needs of their employees and create what worked for them. And I think that that was how we best served our employees and our residents.
In-house, our staff made it safe for all of our employees to get back into the office immediately. So every cubicle is taken care of. And also we have the plexiglass for when we're allowed, specifically here at the activity center as an example, the plexiglass between the employees and our members coming in to use the facility. The municipal building right now, we have the barriers up and it's appointment only. So that was another step that the Community Relations Department worked on with the scheduling. Also, we have the 6-foot markers in place. And then also, as you know, there's a lot of PPE to purchase to make it safe.
I've been a librarian for 21 years. My whole goal for that 21 years is to interest people in the library and draw them to the library, right? We want people to come in, we want people to enjoy, we want this to be a meeting space, we want people to say, hey, I'll meet you at the library at 1 and we can check out books and then go to lunch. We want to be the community's living room. And for the first time in my entire career, I have to tell people, yep, we want you to use the library, but from a distance. And that's really difficult for us. But we're doing the best we can. We're offering curbside service now. People can call us at any time. We'll check things out to them. Anything in the building, movies, music, books, and then we'll put it outside for them to pick up without contacting us. We have a host of other ways to protect the public during this time until, there's a clear path to a cure.
We set up an appointment system for people to come into the building so that we don't exceed the number of people who can be in the building at any time. Different departments asked for different things. My department would coordinate those things with Parks and Rec and the supervisor's office and the Board of Trustees to make sure that employees have what they need.
For the most part, it was our employee safety that we were concerned with. Hat goes off to Parks and Rec, too. I'm just going to shoot them a little shout out. They were top notch when they came and put the petitions up on the workstations. That happened right away. And it allowed us to get back into operation a little more fully.
We're here making sure that everything's disinfected, clean, ready to go, so you don't have to worry when you're calling us. They're well-trained, unbelievably intelligent people here. I mean, we're very lucky to have a group of people that are this smart. They can rest assured that these guys will solve any problem.
I'd really say that the lessons that we learned is really get ahead of the curve. So I got to thank the township board for affording us the opportunity to get those things, because without their commitment to us, we wouldn't have been able to purchase the things that we needed, the proper PPE. When other communities were scampering to purchase masks and hand sanitizers and all the things that we needed to protect our employees, our community was ahead of the curve.
Election day was a massive operation, huge operation. We had to take some measures to make sure that our workers are safe and our voters are safe. And we did. We went to extreme to make sure that we accomplish our goal. We never stop working. We're always here for our residents, for our voters.
I think hindsight is 20/20. I think you learn from every experience, and we've never encountered anything like this before. So we, as a township, as department heads, as employees, we did the best with the information and the tools we had at the time.
going through something like this, what we realize is that, you know, we're a good team. We work well together.
This hit right at vacation time, Easter, if I remember right, all that type of stuff where everyone's usually off. We asked, and guys could have taken their vacation and stayed home. They came in every day. We had full shifts for the longest time. They came in every day to make sure that our residents were taken care of.
This in itself, if we can get through this, if there's something that's worse that comes along, we'll be ready for, and we'll be able to protect the public and the residents.
If something of this magnitude was to happen again, it would be a whole different situation, and I can take the experience from this, but I don't think you can implement the exact same procedure. So I think what I would take away from it is that every situation has a different need, and you have to be flexible and adaptable. And things change so frequently during the pandemic, and they're still changing. You know, you just need to make sure that you have knowledge and keep updated on the latest happenings and continue to change and adapt.